Thanks, Bob. I always have this fear that I'm going to arrive at a reading and not bring anything with me, and that I won't have anything to read. So I always look at my briefcase about 3 times before I leave the house. The teens feel like a prologue, but when the 20s have passed and then one's 30s, they feel like that too. Act 1, about to begin. The sense of waiting is never ending, and by the time 55 arrives, things are new or they're not. And not, maybe never. Three years after her death, my mother appears in a dream, looking casual, though curious and vaguely worried. How's my car running? Charles Birchfield in his journals, age 19. I find that my mind is more impressionable when I am divested of all my clothing. At 60, he reports that in the painful aftermath of a prostate operation, he can think of nothing apart from the field mouse he caught and mutilated as a child. The 2 or 3 times I've seriously considered suicide, the thing that stopped me was the thought of how satisfied that would make certain people I hated. And I hated them too much to go through with it. This is about somebody who said he was going to be here. When the man says Debussy rather than Debussy, it means curiosity's propelled him to teach himself about this music. Why should I be the one who despoils his enjoyment by correcting?
All right.
The flies bide their time by the door. It opens, they race for the litter box. In their world, every day is a shitty day, and every shitty minute, Christmas.
What?
Now they zoom around writing thank you notes in Braille.
What?
Like most war memorials, this one is essentially a matter of the ruling class using public funds to congratulate itself on a skillful ability to fool the rest of us into sacrificing anything and everything, including our lives, in its interest. These are all short poems, which are all 7 lines in length. Who would have the heart, or its lack, to tell old Mary she talks too much? It's as if some bell went off, and off she goes, sprinting and tumbling on and off topic, not because she has that much to say, but more on the order of there being so few to say it to. And the more this goes on, the fewer there are. At 20, people see someone 50 and think, that won't ever be me. At 50, you see someone 80 and think, oh Christ, that's right around the corner. Sex at 59. Every now and then, I give it a wank just to keep my hand in the game. A quote, British police apologized on Wednesday for using a stun gun on a blind man after officers mistook his white cane for a samurai sword.
What?
And by the way, I was in an acting workshop with Dave Simpson. And off to the side of the room was the dog. And we were moving through exercises, and that dog was watching, which involved the participants falling backwards and being caught before they hit the floor. And that dog was watching every move we made.
Wow. Wow.
He was a trooper. Ladybug plopped on the book's open page. Turns out to be 2. Touchdown, no doubt, to get a better grip and catch the little breaths. Then, away. Must be fun to fuck and fly. Not that I want to try it. The young who lack the empathy to imagine what it's like to be old become the old who lack the sympathy to remember what it's like to be young.
Yeah, here it is.
I decided I wanted to write a flower poem. And I realized that the last book that Louis Zukofsky wrote was all flower poems. There's about 85 of them. And they're really good. And I thought, I can't write a poem about any of the flowers that he's written about. So I went through very meticulously cataloging them, and I realized that he had not written a poem about the moonflower. So, with all of his poems in that book, some of which are deliciously impenetrable, are 8 lines and 5 words each, like this. October's final blossom scrunches on its vine like a pawn trumpet impersonating a bridal shower. Late-planted moonflower yielded few blooms. It expires slowly and reminds one of the last act of Swan Lake, where the bird gets hit with a taser. A friend says evolution's fatal turn came at the sign reading primates. He may have a point, though it's way too late to back the car up now. My date with Glenn Gould. What God does he pray to, swaying like that, muttering orange chords to the clouds drifting by inside his head? Oh, to be his bow tie, carelessly pulled in place, or to perch on the rim of an ear, hearing birds flirt from their boughs. Forests of notes coaxed from between bow staves. We get lost in them, stopping now and then to picnic on crumbs of Beethoven's skull. At the end of the night, he vanishes as sound, sculpted in air, decaying into what was there before was. April snow, I know and do not envy you. Twigs fall on your complexion and have the temerity to stay there. You sit all day, a glacier on vacation, dreading your thunderstorm appointment in every anxious dawn. The world's forgotten you were ever beautiful, and then the sun comes along to tickle you to death. What's haunting in Birchfield's pictures is the way everything's in motion. Houses, roads, trees, all of it shakes and vibrates, so that what we see is the opposite of landscape or still life. A world where nothing's placid, where objects tremble almost in fear and exist as mere appearances trapped in the contradiction between the thing they are and the nothing they become. Dream last night, new job, involves meeting and greeting historic personages. Bismarck, Benjamin Britten, it's et al. Meanwhile, Mary wearing only this mini skirt of white paper towels. Bears in the apartment, 2 per room. Snarl at open doors, roar for food. Raspberry bear pies on bathroom floor. Neighbors call to say they smell rotten honey. Walk them in Rittenhouse Square, where of course they refuse to stay on the leash. Where the Sam hell do you think you're going in that getup? Christ, if it's not one goddamn thing, it's another. Friends. Your father had a lot of friends until he got fired. Longest day of the year. Feels like the hottest. Camped in the bedroom with the air on, reading Cervantes, watching people on the street stagger by like hamburger mummies on their way to a furnace auction.
What?
A couple of poems about poets. WCW. Who's that weird-looking old guy with the tie in that picture up there? Is that your grandfather or something? Yes, I said, good guess. That's exactly who it is. Everything and Everyone versus Richard Brautigan. He died with his novels, stories, and poems in jaundiced paperback stacked on the shelves of every used bookstore in America. He died with an empty wallet, a typewriter layered in dust. He died in tidal waves of pumpkins washed ashore on the Oregon coast. He died in every trout in Montana knew. He died in the winos of Potrero Hill lifted fifths of Tokay in salute. He died with his work, widely hailed abroad, derided by all but a handful of U.S. critics. He died predeceased by the quality of mercy at the center of all his enterprise. He died with a ghostly answering machine acting as spokesman so the maggots could do their work. He died an officially listed suicide, but was poisoned by the alchemy of fame and a strange and terrible incompleteness without which it's impossible to experience failure's bottomless falling. He died the angriest man in the world and the loneliest. And what he died from, guns, have nothing to do with. 25, a lot of death poems here. This one's called 25 Die in NC Food Plant Blaze. And it actually originally appeared in the Communist Party's magazine called Political Affairs. And they liked it. There had been one fire back in '83, after which Imperial installed a sophisticated extinguisher over the deep fat fryer. That's where it started. Vapors from a ruptured hydraulic line. What would anyone think seeing a sheet of flame 26 feet long born before her eyes? Then the coils of dense, dark smoke rolling. In their white smocks and hairnets, they were already ghosts, racing for exits padlocked to prevent theft. I'm going to read one more poem, which is from something I'm working on, a series of poems based on folk expressions. So this is called Starve a Cold, Feed a Fever. Cold is a viral disease that's annoying, like starving. If you get one, your head may feel like a true believer's fever, which is to say, you may be a head case, which is to say, you may be fed a bowl of cold soup. A thermometer needs a fever, the way a daybed requires a tired body. Feed bag like a rag bag of underwear that took a tear for the worse. The opposite of a cold is not a hot. Ragged and starved, the Grand Armée made its way toward the Berezina. Febrile itch, pestilential vapors. War lice drunk on blood shook him frightfully. Symptoms include nausea, chills, fever, loss of appetite, and liver damage, creeping toward New Orleans, circa 1878. John Bell Hood among the felled. Feed me grapes. Banquos writhe like a nose job gone wrong, and these limbs in limbo. Oh, so cold in those old castles. Starved, they ordered a callboy and 3 tall pizzas and proceeded to feed. From Love's First Fever to Her Plague is the title of a poem by the late Dylan Thomas, who was not a Scot, but Welsh. When it's feeding time at the shrine of chance, life's sometimes a big fuck you, but you knew that. Starved, and Ari Wiest consumed Beak of Peacock cold while listening to old recordings of obvious imbecilities by A Sneeze in the Sleeve, a hammock with a hippo in it. Norma Ekstrom, Miss Peggy Lee, crooning from the lobby of the Powers Hotel in Fargo. Fever when you hold me tight. Though that was later. Simply put, cells need to eat and drink, just like you. At Starved Rock State Park in Illinois, there are to be found awe-inspiring bluffs and rugged canyons. Viewable. It's colder than bologna mold where the Donner Party trekked through. What a crew. Gripped by gold fever, sipping snow, did feed on Chef Boyardee. The fever broke, but not like dawn or a dam, more like wind aboard hell's last elevator. At the Stanford Museum and Nature Center, circa 1962, we'd feed the sea lions smelts, butterfish too, 3 to a bag. Cost a dime. Recall the day a beaver appeared in the pond opposite their pen. The people tossed it popcorn. It was cold then, or hot, or maybe not. Thanks.